Welcome to Myth Informed. I got the finger with your hosts, Brian and Dimitri.
Well, our host, unfortunately, had an issue with a sick dog.
You mean
what
our,
are you talking about? Our guest
Our
not be
original,
with us tonight.
Our original guest.
Our original
Yes,
guest.
you
Or
said
did I say
host.
host? I meant guest. I meant
Melody.
guest. And so our
Geico's very loud in the background.
It is.
Why can't?
So my YouTube started playing. Anyways, our original guest cannot make it due to a sick dog who may or may not have to have surgery tonight. Let's hope for the best. But we will next week
Brian,
continue with our plan, which was a really, really good show. It's going to be about Dog Park Diane and Dog Park Debbie, Crosswalk Kathy, Golf Cart Gail,
Dude,
and a lot of
making
these things that have
up.
been going around.
There's only one that's famous, and you didn't even mention it, which is Barbecue Becky. The rest of
Barbecue
them,
Becky is
you
one of the most
fucking
famous.
made
No.
up.
But if you follow Black Twitter, like I do, you see that these
What does
things
that
are
even
becoming,
mean?
quote unquote, so common
He's like Jamie.
that they have
Black
made
Twitter.
their own genre. And we were going to talk through these things. Are they racism? Are they not? Are specific instances racist? Are they not? Is this something else? And really grab into the culture.
There's no such
and we're
thing
going to
as,
talk to Melody,
Black
who's really
Twitter.
good on this, but also is very left-leaning and will probably have a different point of view.
Very identitarian of Brian
Yeah,
to
Black
segment Twitter into multiple races.
It's just Twitter, dude.
racial
Huh?
categories.
It's just
But
Twitter.
they call it Black Twitter.
Who calls
No.
it that?
Jack Dorsey.
You're a racist.
Jack Dorsey.
Oh, I missed this.
On
I don't
well,
know
if
this.
you watch Joe Rogan, and that's a good that's a good transition, right?
Yeah,
Joe Rogan was on our Jack Dorsey was on Joe Rogan a few weeks back, and they were talking specifically about
Black Twitter.
Twitter, right? And Jack Dorsey said there are multiple types of Twitter. There's political Twitter, which he says is a cesspool. There's sports Twitter. There's Black Twitter.
Is there gay Twitter?
There's probably gay Twitter.
Oh, okay.
That
So
There's
amazing.
probably knitting Twitter.
I misspeak. You're right.
Right, and
That was
Black
from the
Twitter
first interview. I didn't
Is
know
it common, right? This gets pulled up. Remember, Bunty King was accused of running afoul of Black Twitter.
Let me ask you this,
Bunty's
Brian.
not
Right,
Black.
that Bunty
Brian.
King was accused of harassing Black Twitter. In fact, there was another incident that
Bunty's
popular
Indian.
culture. Did anyone see this at the mall? There was a group of teenage Black girls that were around and yelling at a very large white man. Now this guy had his baby and his wife with him, and ultimately they were all giving him shit. And then the one girl said, "Well, I'm going to do something." And she got up to him, he pushed her away, and then she came back at him, and he left hooked her, and she just went down to the pavement. Everyone ran. He ended up getting arrested,
Wow.
and this was an outrage. Right,
Mhm.
the social justice wars were going crazy, but then many of the comments under this video said Black Twitter seems to be okay with it. And when you checked all the Black accounts under it, they said, yeah, the girl got what she deserved.
Interesting. I
Now,
don't think
he
you
got
should
arrested, but there were
I
a
don't think
whole
we
lot
should
of Black
be-
people that thought,
We shouldn't be punching kids
girl
no
was
matter
punching
what
too much.
the situation is. Don't
Brian,
punch kids.
is
Hashtag.
Russian Twitter the same as political Twitter then?
it's a really good question.
Interesting.
Are we-
Anyways, okay, you
no.
guys are getting way off track. So
We have a
on to the topic
We already
supposed to
started talking
discuss.
about-
Yeah.
You know,
So
Jack.
Brian brought up a good point. So the timeline is Jack Dorsey goes on Joe Rogan's show. They have a conversation. There's a whole ton of backlash because they feel Joe didn't go hard enough with Jack. Joe invites Tim Pool on. Tim brings up all these amazing points, just does a fantastic job.
he opened up a can.
Yeah.
Of
Joe
Prince Albert.
Yeah. So what happened yesterday is Joe invited Tim and Jack Dorsey back, and Jack Dorsey brought his head of security and
No.
trust.
No, it's not security.
Or yeah, it's head of security.
She's
I-
head
well,
of.
no,
She's head
The
of.
trust and safety
Thank
team.
you.
It's not head of
Thank
security.
you.
This is
She's-
not
yeah, that's what I
Lieutenant
mean.
Worf.
Yes.
She's the
Right, this is more Counselor Troy.
Thank
It's
you
the
for-
privilege police. That's
Oh,
what
okay,
her
whatever.
official
Right.
title.
Yeah.
is.
If you're a
So
Star Trek person, you got that.
yeah. So
no one got it.
Yeah,
So
but
they-
lots of people get that. You're the only one that didn't watch Star Trek.
so yeah. So they had this
The
conversation,
dude with the wrinkly forehead.
which in my
That's
opinion,
Worf. That's head of security. He's the guy that always want to fire the photon torpedoes, right? He doesn't want the diplomatic solutions. Captain, I suggest we put up the shields.
What does Jack Dorsey
he's
think
having a
about?
stroke right now. That's what's happening. He's gonna die on a live stream tonight.
That would go viral.
Oh yeah.
That would
Sorry.
be pretty crazy.
Really good conversation, by the way. This, I think,
About
one of
Dwarf?
the best I've seen on Joe Rogan's show. No, this one.
Right.
So it starts off.
It
So
was okay.
it was just okay. So you think it's
No,
just okay?
I liked it. I liked it.
And
it
by
was
the way, can you
Tim,
hear me through the things? Because I can't. My headphones. must be
unfortunately,
down.
it's very
Okay.
loud.
All right,
Yes,
so-
unfortunately.
I thought Tim came off not great.
What?
Really?
Not at all.
Wow.
Why not? Why? Tell us why you didn't. think
Because
Tim
he's
did well.
Russian. Uh-oh.
Hmm.
Oh, we noticed.
Because he's Russian.
Oh, you pulled a cord out? I can hear you, Brian. Believe me.
Yeah, no, I
you
know.
don't have to yell.
I know. That's why I can't hear
Now I
myself.
got
So I don't know how loud I'm. coming
Sean's
through.
ass in my face.
Okay.
Okay. No. Okay. So yeah, expound on that, Dima, because sometimes you like
If
to
he
make
did more
comments
squats, that could have been nice.
without
ass.
any real facts behind it.
Sure.
I'm
no,
interested.
I'll explain. And I did
Yeah.
0 squats today thus far, but the night is not over yet. So I thought he was a little aggressive. He was very in the face. Like, first of all, Jack came off really. Now I've only gotten through like 2 hours of it, so there's
Oh, so you're commenting on something you didn't finish.
an hour and a half left.
Typical Dima. Go ahead.
Obviously, but no, he came off very reasonable. And they may have ulterior motives, but it could have been like Tim came into it with these I don't know, presuppositions that they knew about every one of these people who was or was not banned.
Well, he was making a point there.
I know, and
Don't you
but
ma-
he
don't
could
you
have brought
understand
it
that
up
point?
diplomatically, like, for example, there's this guy, tra-la-la-la.
Okay.
Or-
go ahead.
or-
I'm just gonna let you finish because
Some of them was, I mean, it was interesting where he's like,
Okay.
that's a lie,
Yeah.
that's a lie. That comes off as aggressive. I'm not saying that he's wrong.
Coming from Dima.
I believe, or what's it
He's
called?
an
I
asshole to
agree
everyone.
with Tim more so than the other side on this. Just said from a presentation standpoint,
Okay, compare.
typically-
Well, Dima,
No,
to,
no,
like,
no,
but let's
no,
put it
no.
in context. Though. Dima, would you say that he was less or more professional than, say, Jim Acosta is with Trump?
No, of course he was more professional. Jim Acosta is a fucking ass clown. What I'm saying is that based on Tim's content that he's put out in the past, and every single time he's appeared on stage at MythCon or wherever, this is the most aggressive I've ever seen him.
He
pulled it back.
He was doing investigative
so
journalism.
I let you speak now.
He was
and
tough.
You made all these terrible points. So what I think you missed is
Missed it.
what was happening in the interview, and you should know this coming from a corporate standpoint. That was corporate, and that
Dima's
was
small business
independent.
and less corporate.
That was Tim Pool knowing more about the subject, and you have corporate heads that they know some of it, but they're not connected to
I'm
it.
talking about the words that you use. You can
Sure.
be
Sure.
confrontational
No,
in a respectful
No, see,
manner.
I
just-
thought he was.
I- I thought he was extremely respectful. I thought all of the points he brought up were good, and they didn't have an answer for it. So I
Okay.
think you're feeling bad for
challenging. He was
Yeah.
No.
challenging.
And,
Listen.
and also Joe brought up some fantastic
Sure.
points, but it's delivery. They have a different delivery. You could tell the corporate head had certain PR training prior to this interview with certain buzzwords and certain things that she should say. Context.
Sean, I'll tell you
That
this
kept coming
from
up.
an outsider's perspective.
Yeah.
From someone who doesn't use Twitter very heavily,
Yeah.
but knows the controversies around Twitter, and has seen the Dorsey thing,
Yeah.
and then watching Bill Ottman talk about mines,
Yeah.
and having seen the first one where Tim ripped a new asshole to the Jack Dorsey interview. All of those were great except for the Jack Dorsey one. That was politically corporate. In this one, I thought that their answers were very measured, and if I knew nothing about Twitter, I would have left that
Interesting.
conversation thinking
Interesting.
that guy was kind of a dick. Even though I know Tim, he's a nice dude, and he's
See,
not.
I think
And I
you're-
would have thought, you know
Yeah.
what? This the other side of the table, besides like the chick from the safety whatever the fuck
Vijay.
team,
Yeah.
I think
she was a little.
Yeah. Vijaya.
She was a
Vijaya.
something like
She
that.
was a little douchey. Jack came off as the best person in the room in that
But
whole
Jack's-
interview.
Jack's the CEO.
Hands down.
Vijaya definitely came off.
Dude, she was douchey.
To Brian's point, Vijaya definitely came off, definitely a little more unrefined. However, you can tell she was coached.
Sure, of
Secondly,
course.
though, to
Jack's a
Brian's
CEO.
point-
CEOs are
Correct.
very, very good at this.
Yes.
No,
Especially a big
The-
major.
But that's not true. Not
Yes,
all of
one-
them.
well,
And
not
his
obviously
and
not
his
all of them.
responses when he was
Good
saying
CEO.
They're polished.
His-
Most CEOs are
Yeah.
his
polished.
responses where he was saying things, and I agree that this is corporate speak, but he did
Yeah.
a very good job of it, where he was like, listen, this is really difficult to do. We're trying the best that we can,
Mhm.
and we are experimenting with different things because we know we have a
And
problem.
the tech isn't always there.
That's the absolute perfect way to answer that question. And Tim can't really come back from that because
No. And we can get into the specific topics I want to bring up out of the show, but they did get into redemption. They did get into
they did. That was good.
And
They
this
got
is the
they
thing.
got some answers.
This is what
and
Tim
they did get answers. Yeah.
This is what Tim did better than anyone in that room. Not only did he come up with concerns, he came up with solutions. Some of the
Sure,
solutions Tim had were brilliant.
There were good suggestions
the
about the
ju-
Periscope thing with the jury.
the jury,
Yeah.
the jury rating. And even Joe came up with a good one with rated R Twitter, rated
not safe
PG,
for work.
PG-13 Twitter. And the funny thing is, Twitter kept coming back and they kept saying, "Look, there are some of these things in place."
Yeah, there is a not
who
safe
the-
for work button on Twitter. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Who the hell knows that?
And
Wait,
that,
what?
What's her name? Was it Vijay or Vijaya?
Yeah. Vijaya.
Vijaya.
I believe it's Vijaya. I'm sorry if I'm.
Well,
butchering that.
JJ?
No, I knew
Come
an
on.
Indian woman named Vijaya,
You're
and
just-
that's so
you're
I
just an
don't
idiot.
know. I hate
I believe it's Vijaya.
I hate the
I'm sorry if I get
Vijay.
it wrong.
That's a dumb word.
But anyways, yes, go ahead.
Brian admitted he's gay.
You're making a point.
No one.
But she said that there is that not safe for work button, and she goes, Joe,
Wait.
you probably have it off.
Wait,
Like, she was funny. I mean,
everyone.
I
has
didn't
it
hate
off
her.
is the
I
point.
didn't hate her at all.
Everyone has it off because you don't know it's even there. That's not
What are you
advertised
talking
on
about?
Twitter.
What are you talking about?
Right.
If you
now,
would stop talking about Vijay, the fact that the way it operates is not transparent. You don't know that there's this safe to work option. You don't know that there's these other options that
Right.
are available.
Now,
They do
the
a
other-
terrible job at that.
the other,
Yeah, sure. So they're
But
so they're
any
doing a
other-
shit job. But
the
the
point I was making is that
responses,
Tim's solutions were really,
the responses
really
to
good.
the criticisms, I thought from their side, I expected them to
Yeah.
do worse than they did. Let me put it that way.
right.
I
okay.
was very pleasantly surprised by the fact that they're like, we're trying to do a 2-page or maybe whatever, a 2-sentence rules that is not written by a lawyer. We're experimenting with options where they can do like moderation of whatever replies and
Yeah.
things like that. All of these things, the fact that they're experimenting and the fact that they went on the show and they
the
said
fact
this
that
multiple
they went on
times.
the
He
show
even
is
went on
really-
have to
Hannity,
do that.
like-
They didn't.
and they were like,
didn't,
hey,
right.
like we're not trying to suppress. I think they are to
Yeah.
an extent biased against conservatives, but at the end of the day, at least they're standing there
Yeah.
and they're not cucking out like Zuckerberg,
No.
who refuses to talk to anyone.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so let's
Yeah,
go
I'll
through
give him
the
that.
let's go through the interview. So early on, it's a 3.5 hour
Three and a
interview. Joe loves those. He's got to be killing.
Well, the
it. He's gotta
idea
be-
of the long form
absolutely
interview is
killing
so
it
much
on-
better. In fact, they
yeah.
even mentioned that how he went on Sean Hannity,
yeah,
and they said, "How did that go?" And he said it was very short.
yeah, not a lot of tough questions.
Well,
right? Yeah.
how much can you get on in 5
Right.
minutes?
So first they got on to, obviously they were all there. Tim got on to some of the censorship stuff. One of the things that came up early on that I thought was really interesting, Brian, you've been bringing up this up a lot, was the banning of Megan Murphy,
Mhm.
right? So she got banned off of Twitter for making the comment, well, men aren't women, or women aren't
Well,
men.
just
Those are the-
trans people are not women. Trans women are not women.
No, it was the very biological.
Men aren't
Men aren't
men
women,
Men aren't
right.
women, yeah. And that was it. That's what got her kicked off. And they even referenced that, and they actually had examples there, which was really good, smart for their end. But yeah, so Megan Murphy gets kicked off for that one statement.
Right.
Why?
Now, they said there were others, but the thing is, ultimately, if you're a TERF, I don't know if they call themselves as the trans exclusionary radical feminists, but these are essentially the holdovers, or the folks from the 1970s. Now, Megan Murphy's a younger woman, so she's not a feminist from the 1970s, but ultimately it's the same thing. They talk about the patriarchy. So if you would argue this, they would sound like every feminist. The difference is they don't believe that trans women belong within feminism.
Yeah.
That this is men trying to co-opt
Yeah.
the feminist movement. They don't,
Or
don't
they
like
have an
this at all.
unfair advantage, like the famous tennis players.
Maria
Navratilova.
Yeah, say Dima, you
Martina
can- I knew-
Navratilova.
I know Dima can say it. Is she Russian?
No, she's not
No,
Russian.
what is she? That's a
She's Czech or something.
okay, close enough.
It's not that hard.
Yeah. So no,
Cult-
like
you
she
At least culturally appropriate the right continent.
She came,
Good.
She came up on Twitter and said, and stated just that. What she's seeing with the trans women is they have an advantage in like sport.
Right.
You know?
And Martina, like, to her credit, that she differentiated two things. So there's one woman, I can't remember her name, who's a biological woman that has a condition that produces more testosterone, but she's XX and she was born a woman. Okay, fine. This is just a bit of an abnormality. Like she said, this woman should not be banned from the Olympics because the Olympics actually test their level in order to qualify for the female Olympics is to have a certain level of testosterone. You have to be below that. Yeah. So if you're a woman, a biological woman with an abnormality, or you're on the absolute highest end of this testosterone level, then you can't compete. Well, so this is messed up. So what she was saying is, no, this woman should be allowed to compete. However, if you went through puberty as a male, and then when you were 29 or something, and then now you're on estrogen, estrogen is also a huge potent inhibitor of testosterone. So taking estrogen will lower your testosterone to a normal level. But you still have all the muscle mass that you've built as going through puberty as a man. Like you also have your bone structure is different as well. Yeah. You have an advantage, right? If Brock Lesnar, like, all of a sudden went on estrogen, he's still going to be stronger than pretty much any bio woman like around. Like, so what they're saying is going through puberty as a male is doping. And that's just a reasonable place to be. But she was cast out of the intersectionality piece for saying that. So if you've gone through puberty as a man, you cannot compete in women's sports. That's just not unreasonable.
I'm going to start filling out forms as bioman. I'm just saying. I think this is going to be a trend. Yeah. Other people can hop on board.
Now, if this is, I think for powerlifting and other sports. Now, let's say this was skeet shooting. Could a trans woman that transitioned at 29 do skeet shooting? I had much less of an objection there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we're talking weightlifting?
Yeah. Well, the point,
or MMA?
The point is,
you're getting into very specific.
The point is, again, on this episode, I thought Tim rightly pointed that out, and Joe was on that side too. That's not something you get kicked off of Twitter for, you know. And the other thing that came up in the conversation was, I thought this was really key, is the fact that Twitter has this monopoly over the social discourse,
which is also not true.
It 100% does.
No.
If your business loses their Twitter account, or if you're a celebrity, or if you're a journalist, for instance, and you lose your Twitter account, that's death to your career.
I don't think it's death to your career, but
look at Alex Jones.
There are other
great example.
Listen, he had problems way before Twitter banned him, but
that's not the point I'm making.
What they were saying is
the social media networks.
But look at Sargon. Sargon's banned from Twitter. It hasn't ruined his career.
Well, let's say he was
banned from YouTube. It might. Well, it's a bigger deal.
That's the point I'm making.
No, that's not the point that you're making. That's the wrong point.
So you're saying Twitter isn't constantly referred to when President Trump tweets?
It's one platform.
If you want to be a journalist,
that's it.
It helps to be on Twitter because all of the journalists on Twitter.
That's what I'm saying.
Not all journalists are on Facebook, but every journalist is on Twitter.
It's a big ass platform, but it's not a monopoly. That's stupid to say.
Here's another good point that Tim brought up. He said there's a lot of hubbub on the left right now, rightly or wrongly, that Russia has influenced our election.
Correct.
Right? The Mueller investigation on Trump is part of this. Was there collusion? But either way, does they have an abnormal influence?
Right.
Well, but okay, fine. That's something that most people would probably be worried about, even if you're a conservative. But the thing is, what about Twitter?
Yeah.
Like, what about an American company, right? So we're not worried about foreign intervention that's censoring, say, conservatives. Does that have an undue effect on the election? Is that okay?
Right.
Like,
because it is a major part of their discourse. It really,
right.
I mean,
but they're Americans.
You guys,
so
you're
like anyone that gets up and says you should vote for somebody, like a celebrity could have undue influence.
Dima, you constantly talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The only reason she is relevant is her social media status.
No,
she's good on social media. That's how got her elected.
100%. She's an influencer.
The reason why she's
she has 3.4 million followers on
the
Twitter.
Reason
she has 3.4.
something like that. Yeah, look
Oh,
it
it's
up.
like
Look it up right now.
2.1.
The
but it's like
reason why
3.4, yeah.
she's famous is because the right consistently brings her up and
No,
makes
that's not
videos
true.
about
That's not
her.
true.
That's
That
not
is
true.
100% what it is.
She
She's
was a superstar.
Yeah.
Like I found out about her because when I didn't know who she was until when I asked Karen Garst, who is your idea of a modern feminist that you really liked? And she was responded immediately, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yep.
I didn't know
Didn't
anything
even know
about her
why.
at that point.
I'm sure she
had
didn't
just
know
won
either.
the primary. She hadn't won the general
Yeah.
election yet. And I was like, who? So I had to
Exactly.
immediately look her up.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that person didn't even have a full scope of who it is because it's such a social media has become
She was
such
hugely popular on the left.
social media has become such a powerful tool that when you lose it, it truly affects your brand. It doesn't matter if you're a company,
Well,
if you're an individual,
if
whatever.
you're good on it.
That's what I'm
right?
saying.
This is
That's what
not
I'm
going
saying.
to affect Dianne Feinstein. This is
That's
not
what I'm
going
saying.
to affect who does
Will affect
Yeah,
her.
Elizabeth Warren.
3.4 million on Twitter. She has.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
It doesn't matter.
well, it's
Yeah,
funny.
no,
It's
Ben
funny.
Shapiro that has 2.1.
It's funny. Like I was thinking about this today. Russian millennials are very good at hacking and social media and using it to manipulate things and stuff. And then we get the one Russian that doesn't know anything about social media, never uses it, and he's on Facebook, and that's his whole thing. So I thought that was pretty funny today.
Love Zuckerberg.
But I'm telling you, dude, the social media stuff is extremely important. Once you get banned, you lose your voice. You really do.
Right.
So
What about there was a Jay Deedles or something not being on posting on Twitter dehumanize somebody, because this is a popular talking point on the left. They're talking about dehumanization.
Well, so explain that to me. I don't get it.
Well, like
Right.
the fact that you are banned from Twitter, does that dehumanize you? Do you have is it a human necessity to?
I think it's become so close to our right of free speech that it's a right almost. It almost is a right, you know, like it's getting to that point where it is it's the extension of our free speech capabilities.
No, it's weird.
Yeah.
Like the Constitution is not quite set up to deal with social
Well,
media.
the Constitution states that you have a right to your voice, and
Well, you do, but that on the town with
Yeah.
with a megaphone or
It's
something, but
interesting,
you
yeah.
don't necessarily.
it's interesting. But the thing is,
yeah,
though,
these people
see,
I do have the right to kick people off platform.
I loved Tim's solutions. I love Joe's solutions. They had really good ideas. I don't know what Twitter's working on, but I think ultimately this is where Twitter as a business is screwing up. The fact that he built this case and he said, look, it always looks like the lefties are getting kicked off, or I'm sorry, the conservatives are getting kicked off. The lefties are staying on. He brought up the Proud Boys example, which was very interesting. The Proud Boys example. Brian, you can talk about the Proud Boys, but it started as a joke by Gavin McInnes, right? As like, you know, we should start this thing. And it turned into this big movement, right? And then all of a sudden it got tied to like the alt-right and white nationalists and stuff. And even Gavin McInnes, from what I understand, has separated himself from this. He's been kicked off Twitter, banned off Twitter. Yet Antifa, and a lot of the Proud Boy members have been kicked off Twitter. Antifa has free reign. Like they can go on there and they can say crazy shit.
And their answer to this was centralization versus decentralization. So Antifa, right, which is an anarcho-communist organization, by definition must be decentralized.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the whole idea, is they don't want centralization. They want like communities will make their own laws. Communities will police themselves.
Right.
Right. So it's different. It's like Islam versus the Catholic Church. Islam is decentralized, right? You have an individual individual cleric that can make a fatwa, and that's applicable only to his followers and not anyone else. There's no pope.
Yeah,
there's no pope. With the
pope,
Proud
you're right.
Boys,
There's
it
no pope.
actually did have an organization, so that's where they were able to pin it down. Antifa,
Yeah, but it never became a legal organization. It never filed for legal status. It never had tax exemption. It never did any of the things. It's not a centralized organization. It's just a social media meme.
Well, this was what their claim is. And again, I don't exactly know if the Proud Boys have. I mean, does Antifa do that? But they said that they would have to go for individual accounts. And Tim was right to be pushing on this, because if they didn't, like, you have to get them to think about that. And there was times too that she goes, well, maybe we should go back and look at this.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that came out of this conversation. There was a lot of that. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Megan back on or Sargon back on or even Alex Jones.
Is there a redemption? See, the weird thing is
Yeah.
on Twitter, like even we knew a very bombastic lawyer here in town that was disbarred. And in Wisconsin, there is no permanent disbarring.
Yeah.
So the maximum penalty is a 5-year disbar, and you can then reapply. And this guy was disbarred like a number of times, but then you could potentially reapply. So even in the, there was a lot of legal people that said, yeah, he deserved what he got. But the thing is, there wasn't a lifetime. So
well, and people change over time. But I guess my original point that I didn't really get to is I think Twitter as an organization from a business standpoint should be neutral. They should just be a neutral thing where this is the platform and people go on and they use it, whatever. They allow porn, they allow a bunch of shit already anyways.
I don't think anyone disagrees with you.
No, but they do, obviously, because they have rules and regulations.
You're right. Like Facebook, so you can't post nudity.
What I'm saying is,
you can on Twitter.
It's a neutral platform that says, look, whatever people do on here is whatever. Because they even made the argument of how sunshine is the best sanitizer, how shining the light on a lot of this shit really helps fix it, instead of banning and banning and banning. And if that's your stance, get rid of the terms and conditions, get rid of all of that, and just say, look, Twitter is a platform. You have your black Twitter, you have your whatever Twitter, like you were saying, Brian, you have all of these things already. It is what it is. We're just here to
circles of Twitter.
We're here to make sure
Twitter.
Make sure the server doesn't shut down, because now you've protected yourself from anything. If you're just saying we're just the platform, that's it. You've absolved yourself of the shit that happens on it. And most of the times people will police themselves. They're not going to allow the crazy shit to happen, Let's say,
but I'll give
you for instance, let's say there is a crazy person that goes on there and say, hey, we're going to kill this person next. Well, now you just call the police. We know who you're going to kill.
Well, but what happens when somebody does get killed, right?
They get killed in real life, though.
Let's say you get killed in real life.
Yeah.
And here comes the wrongful death lawsuit.
Social media.
Can you hold Twitter liable for the execution of the crime?
No.
Somebody said this guy ought to be killed. Then one of that guy's followers goes and does it.
Well, and here's the thing, though. Let me just point this out. They brought up in the interview, and I don't know how true it is, but they said they don't read people's DMs.
No, but
hold on. They don't read people's DMs. So if that's the case, they're already doing it. You can have these communications happening on the platform that you're not policing anyway.
Yeah, but it's broadcasting it out. That's the power of Twitter. The power of Twitter is not in DMs.
It's
we
even
can
better.
DMs no different than a text.
Public. Yeah, but you can. Yeah, okay.
Text message have been available since 2004.
I'm just saying, it's not like it's protecting. The DMs is a perfect instance where, for instance,
but it doesn't matter. But
it's not policed at all.
That's not the point that they were making.
Think about it too.
Totally.
You absolutely could sue
I'm
Twitter
making.
if somebody was killed, right?
In the DMs?
No, like think about it. If somebody's killed at a machine at work,
sure,
and you are the lawyer, are you going to sue just the company? Are you going to sue the manufacturer? You're going to sue everyone.
You're going to sue whoever's liable.
No, you're going to sue all of the people you feel is liable.
You're going to sue whoever's liable, because whoever's liable is
correct.
Right.
And if Twitter was the media,
may not be liable depending on what.
Why did Craigslist take down personal ads?
I don't know.
Because
hookers were getting killed.
Absolutely, because
I still see them
these platforms are
personal ads
liable. Huh?
Hookers were getting killed.
There is no look for casual encounters on.
But you guys
it's
don't
not
get.
There.
There's another point that was
and
brought
so
up.
is misconnections,
Brian,
I believe.
There's another point that was brought up that these platforms and people adapt. So you're right. Yeah, Craigslist got rid of their personal ads, right? I'm pretty sure
out of liability.
Hold on. I'm pretty sure if you pull it up right now, you can still go on there and find people that give you massages or do quote unquote other work. And it's just hidden. They've used a different tactic.
Well, but unless everybody knows where to go,
that's how these things form.
Well, but the other thing they had to worry about was FOSTA. So it's both liability and then FOSTA.
You're never going to stop it, is the point. People will continue to adapt. They'll continue to use it just in a different way. I mean, the thing where I didn't know that this was a thing. Did you see the meme where some people would put like one letter on their Twitter account, and then one of their friends would do another letter, and other friends do another letter? I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So there you go. I mean, you're operating outside of the guidelines just in a creative way. You're not going to stop it. Like I think that's where Jack and Vijaya.
No, but they know all this. They're aware of it.
They're at a company that profits off of outrage and craziness. And if there is no outrage and craziness, they don't have a business.
Well, yeah,
know?
they're aware of this.
And I think the bigger thing that drives them is just making sure those that are investing, the investors, the capital, you know, the shareholders have a business. Like honestly, like it's, I don't know. It's very corporate. Like,
but what about getting banned for like improper pronouns or even learn to code?
Stupid.
Right? Learn to code. Right? Something that was told
that.
initially to the anthracite coal miners, you know, when they were worried about not having a job, and they're like, well, whatever, man, the technology changed, learn to code. And now this is being used by the right against journalists, and now it's a bad thing.
I have one more question for you.
Come on, learn to code.
I have one more. I agree with that 100%. I have one more question for you. You know, those African scammers that email people and they like steal all their money and stuff from out of Nigeria, right? You know, you guys know about this.
They're the princes.
So does Gmail get sued when people get taken advantage of? They don't, because they're not liable, right? That's
on spam email. Well, maybe the liability is negligent there.
I don't. They may get sued over it. I may not know enough, but it's a scam. You know, like. What are you gonna do?
But those scams used to be perpetrated through the U.S. Postal Service. I remember seeing one of those ads when I was a kid.
Yeah.
My dad showed it to me in a letter that he got in the mail.
What are you going to do?
And he's like, here's a fake letter. This is a scam. Let me show you.
What are you going to do? Sue the post office?
Right. You can't. Right. You can't sue the post office.
Because that's what I think the solution is to all of these social media platforms. It's like, great, you guys have found out a way to find
But there are spam filters, right? I mean, would it be okay then to legislate and say, well, companies, the industry standard within Gmail or other email platforms is to have a spam filter that people can turn on or off, and they have that, right? So
I don't know.
Maybe that's how they reduce their liability, because again, you can't build a completely safe lawnmower. If I turn that thing over and put my hand into the blades, I'm going to hurt myself. But I can make a reasonably safe lawnmower. So you can make a reasonably safe Gmail and a reasonably safe Twitter. The question is, well, what is a reasonably safe Twitter?
Well, what gets you out of liability at, let's say in a manufacturing,
to do what a reasonable manufacturer would do.
Let's say in a manufacturing setting, what eliminates liability?
To following what a reasonable person would do.
Easier than that.
It's a policy.
Getting out of the business.
That's one thing. What's another thing that eliminates liability? Let's say you're using a ladder.
Quitting.
Let's say you're using a ladder, and on the ladder, what's on the side of the ladder?
The warning labels don't completely mitigate this.
That would they do?
They mitigate this, but they do not eliminate liability.
They mitigate liability by saying, look, there's a warning. If you used it this
way, they mitigate it, right? It's a hedge against it, but it doesn't wipe it out. It doesn't wipe it out. Trust me. I've seen case laws like this. Like
anyway,
you can have a warning. You can have a warning on
Twitter. Should just have a warning.
Do not stick your hand inside this lawnmower.
Yeah. And that's and
right. What they've invented is kill switches.
That's the Joe's point again. If you did Twitter uncensored, which is an option, and then you did a Twitter rated R or whatever, all you have to do is change the algorithm to eliminate.
It was angry Twitter. That's what it was.
And I think that too. I think Twitter is worried about liability, like a good company ought to be. Yeah. But I do think Jack Dorsey, he has a good heart. I think that he is in a bubble, and he sort of admits it. I think
he's a businessman, which is fine.
But I don't think that he's.
I don't think he cares.
Setting out. I don't think that he is disseminated to the people. Censor Republicans. It just doesn't. That doesn't strike to me.
I agree.
But I think that the liberal bubble
unfortunately,
the progressive bubble that most of the employees are in, I think that it comes out.
But I think that's what Tim's major point was: is something's broke. It's broke. Because even though you don't want it to be that's what it's turned into.
But that's why this conversation was so important.
Yeah.
Is because
it was going good.
It was good.
Is because Tim got a lot of stuff off his chest. Not a lot of people get to sit in front of the CEO of
Twitter,
one of
yeah.
these evil companies,
Mhm.
and tell them directly to their face for 3 hours how they fucked up.
Mhm.
And it
Right.
was 3 hours of you did this, you didn't do this, and that was good.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
and I guess what's the bare minimum that Twitter needs to do beyond liability? So someone in the chat saying, anything beyond the bare minimum is now them moralizing.
No, it's,
Well, yeah, that's
it's
true. That's true. But determining the bare minimum is actually difficult.
Incitement to violence is definitely on that list.
Right. Well, doxing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Which is
Did he go after the Kathy Griffin thing? Because I remember
Yeah, he went
doxing
after
came
the-
up.
he went after the Kathy
I
Griffin,
didn't
yep.
get through all of it.
Oh yeah, he went after the cover.
What did he say about?
it.
Anyone know what he said about Kathy Griffin?
So he said he brought up Tim brought up specific examples that said, look, Kathy Griffin asked for the names of these kids, and then he brought up some other examples on the other side where they weren't nearly as bad.
Yeah.
They got banned, but Kathy Griffin's just
And what did they say?
I think they said they were going to go back and look at it.
Yeah,
or something.
a lot of these cases.
The Kathy
we
Griffin
got to
thing
go
was
back
terrible.
and look. We got to go back and look.
or
But
that it was
context.
after the fact. It was
You have to
it was
look at
removed.
context. Yeah.
Point is, I mean, I think
Again,
they
that's-
know they
yeah.
have a problem. So
Yeah.
unless they want to hire some remote,
Well,
checkers
Yeah.
that are in
yeah.
Missouri,
Yeah. Well,
that-
did you hear too? What was really interesting? Some of their staff is contract workers.
Mhm.
I thought that was very interesting. I'm like,
of course,
What's wrong with that?
contract workers?
every
These are
co-
people. I understand companies do it. My company does it. We hire contractors, but when you're focusing, when you're relying on contractors to get your company policies right,
Wait, no,
and we don't even
contractors
know what
already
their
the
policies
contractors for
are.
their tech, or they were hiring contracts for company policy.
No, for-
contractors for
the safety and whatever the fuck.
review process for, like, if something gets mass flagged, or if something comes up through the algorithm.
But you also do want to make sure that you're within industry standard, right?
Yeah, well,
this is
you-
one of
you
the things.
hope.
So
you hope
you would have
I'd love
somebody
to-
that understands what Facebook is doing.
I'd
understands
love to
what
see
Minds
their
is doing.
I'd love to see their escalation process, because every escalation process I've ever seen is terrible.
Mhm.
and it would be nice for them to be a little more transparent with all
Yeah.
their shit.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
that's like bringing a temp in and saying, "Hey, we need you to decide."
It's-
I'd love to sneak Erica
what our
in there
number
one day
one
to see
model
what she would come back with.
is
Yeah.
doing this week. No,
Get her in the HR
I'm
department.
just saying, like, that was interesting. Contract workers, I found that, and that was a lot of the corporate side that I saw come out of this. Is they were actually talking about operations, they were talking about policies, they were talking about the corporate side of things, and Tim and Joe are really on the other side of the customer. They're being affected by this,
Yeah.
and so
And it did sound like he said these are being applied unequally, and Jack Dorsey just said, "I know." Like that was a straight
was
up
good.
admission
that was good.
that yes, we're aware of this.
Jack-
we're working on the fix.
Jack Dorsey almost lost it at one time. Did you see that one time he almost lost it? When they were talking about one of the algorithm changes, and Tim's like, well, why don't you make the change? Or why? It was something along those lines.
Uh-huh.
And then Jack goes, we are. It's just not done yet. Like,
Yeah.
he came out of character for 1 second. I was like, but
there was
we almost
times that
saw
like
the
he's like,
CEO in the
I'm aware of
boardroom.
this. And Jack was trying to say, I'm not the evil demon.
Yeah.
We are aware that there are problems. Like,
yeah.
and he didn't say we are aware that conservatives are being censored more so than people on the left. But he copped to the fact that they were being applied unequally and said, we're on this.
Yeah.
So I think we do have to give them time to fix it, because like this is really hard from a policy standpoint to figure out what's right. You're going to need a lot of smart people. You're going to need a lot of good HR people in there to figure out what's going on. And then you need to code it. And then it needs to work right. And then you got to test it.
I just think it's so much easier to just become part of the public discourse, part of the, just having it be just a neutral party no matter what. Like, that's the best way to do it, in my opinion.
Sure.
It just
And I think everyone agrees, but they don't know how to implement it.
Yeah.
Because you're drawing from because people are biased. So
And they
until
still
we have
they can't make it perfect and wreck their business.
Until
at the
we
same
have
time. They still have
robots
to make money.
making decisions,
which we kind of already do.
hopefully.
Kind of already do.
Well, they
the
admitted too
algorithms
that it's
are robots
really
making
hard to
decisions.
detect bots on Twitter because the bot technology is
Yeah.
really,
Wonder
really
how much
good.
they pay people. 4,000 people doing reviews.
There's no.
So they get
Not nearly enough.
4,000 people total in the company.
correct. So
not doing reviews.
No.
Yeah.
With 4,000 people even
4,000
doing
people
reviews,
doing-
would not be enough time to read all the
Trust
tweets.
me.
It's
I
four.
know.
It's 4,000 people doing reviews.
No, it's not. It's
So-
4,000 people total in the
So
company.
now I'm like, what if they get paid $10 an hour?
because Joe even asked. He said, "Look, so I'm assuming the review team is much less than 4,000." Vijaya's like, "Yeah, I've got numbers she had, but it's not like the hundreds versus the thousands."
Yeah, and there's no way, even with 4,000, that they could keep up. Even if you had 4,000 people reviewing, that you could keep up with the amount of tweets.
No,
There's no way.
Twitter as a company has 4,000 employees,
Yeah.
which is actually really small.
You would
company.
probably need 100,000 people full time to like
Look, you got to read.
somehow
You
keep up
got to
with the
read
amount
every
of tweets
tweet.
that are going on.
You got to know the memes.
Imagine how many languages you're going to need. Yeah,
Yeah.
and every
contacts
and you need-
get
and you need
destroyed.
the
They brought up
context.
the international
It
stuff,
would be
which is
impossible.
interesting. Yeah, the international stuff I know gets a lot harder, especially when you're looking at the Middle East, especially when you're looking at areas that
I know,
do
and then
have
they did say this was
blasphemy laws and
interesting.
hate speech
Right? What if
laws.
what if somebody tweets out something like, being gay should be
Yeah.
illegal? Then it gets flagged in Britain, but that's literally the law in
Mhm.
Iran.
Yeah,
and how some things could be flagged. And then Tim brought up
That
the
was
interesting
interesting,
point but this could be a negative thing. You could be following a person, then you see it like some Islamic cleric, you see his tweets about God, and you're just like, oh, it's all good in this, but you don't see his tweets about jihadism. And you're literally following a jihadist. Or you could do the same thing with some like ethno-stater that wants, to cull the population. You just wouldn't know it. That was actually a good point. That
yeah.
sometimes censoring a partial censor, like you don't even know who you're following.
and international business is tough for anyone that I mean, any U.S. business that does business like internationally, it's very tough because you have to understand like a whole new set of laws. You have to look at like, and especially if you're dealing in like the Middle East or like areas that are very oppressed, that's insane. Like, and so I feel for them there, and that's tough. But in the U.S., I mean, it's pretty blanketed. Like, there's no hate speech laws. Let it roll as a neutral party, as a neutral
On the
company.
plus side,
Yeah.
I think that they
As
could
a utility.
they could
essentially.
use
Utility.
this as a springboard to turn over a new leaf, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Maybe they got out of that interview and like, that guy was such a dick. I can't believe, if they were talking about Tim that way. So maybe we'll see what happens, and we'll see.
No, I think he looks like a tough investigative journalist there. And there was times at one time when he stopped and
I
Joe
agree.
Rogan looks and he goes, "Oh, a pause."
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
hilarious because he was going at him full time. And I do think they were like calming him down. This reminded me of, I mean, I've been in corporate meetings where the executive staff is talking to either the sales team or
Yep.
the marketing team or
Yep.
the ops team. And key people in that team are like, all right, what are you going to do about back orders?
Yeah.
What are you going to do about the fact that we're not getting X? This is a major problem.
Yeah.
We don't think you're dealing with it. What gives? And like, these are hard. And then you see like the executive team kind of like say, and the first time they'll just like, yeah, we understand
Mhm.
that this is not optimal. Our plan is to whatever. Like
Yeah.
it was a lot like in companies saying, look, you're not giving me the tools I need. You're hanging me out to dry.
Yeah.
You're in charge. Do something.
Yeah.
That's what Tim Pool was doing. And I
I
think
agree.
almost everybody has been in that scenario.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I think personally, if Twitter was smart, they would offer Tim a consultant
That'd be dope.
gig.
Mm.
And
That'd be real smart.
no, I think that'd be brilliant because he's one of their biggest critics and he raises some great points. I don't know if Tim would do it. He loves what he's doing, obviously. He's a very independent.
No, but he
The
could,
diversity of
person.
viewpoint you're gonna need.
he could be like
But
a
I think he should. If
like
they
someone
offered.
they send some cases to, and they're
Like what
on
do
a
you think?
one-off basis.
What do you think? What do you think about this?
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, and they even said how guilty they were, with the amount of employees they have that do lean left.
No,
Even though they
what are you gonna
pretended
do?
they didn't know.
You know
what
what
it
But
was
at the
that-
same time, they're based in
Literally.
California.
Yeah.
A random sampling of the population is going to lean left.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what
not
would have been
necessarily their
amazing
fault.
is if they had Alex Jones there.
Well, it's funny. Did you see Alex Jones
yeah,
tweeted?
he was. He was
texted
texting
Joe. Yeah, I text Joe during
which was funny.
which
but
is smart actually.
If I were Alex Jones, I'd be outside the studio like, "Let me in, bitches.
Yeah,
I
let me
want
in
to talk to this guy."
I gotta talk to him. I gotta talk to that Jack.
That was the funny thing is because there was
Okay, Joe.
I was reading I'll tell you, Joe.
The globalists are coming. Yeah.
When I was reading the comments for that podcast, someone was like, for as bad as he is, Alex Jones would have made an amazing.
Choke me out right now.
He would have made an amazing voice actor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 100%.
We used to do it all the time. We used to do it as teenagers.
He'd be
choked out before. I was choked out by this chick. She was hot. It was like, we're just 13.
Like, dude, you should not be
She
talking
choked me out.
about reasons why you have brain damage. On this fucking...
But it's unbelievable. Like, imagine him being like a cartoon dog. That'd be.
He's like a mascot at this point.
Yeah,
he really is.
It would be phenomenal.
And
then I was talking to Anna, and she's like, "God, his voice is so annoying." I'm like, "No, his voice is brilliant."
Yeah.
I right. If he didn't have that voice, he wouldn't be as popular.
No.
Oh, you know what? I should bring up. Have you ever seen the Eric Andre Alex Jones clip?
No,
You've never seen this?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to
this
bring
was
it
at
up.
the RNC. This was the RNC National Convention. Alex Jones was having he had a platform outside where he had some of the InfoWars people, and he was talking about what Alex Jones usually talks about. And then there was a leftist that it was Eric Andre posing as a leftist, and he got up there, and instead of like debating Alex Jones, which was the idea, he gets up there and he goes, "Will someone have sex with my
cafe
wife?"
coffee just
But by the way, Spinal would like
Stupid ad.
everyone to know that the globalists are coming. So thank you, Spinal.
minutes perfect
We
time.
agree with
The
you.
globalists are coming. Sorry.
Why are we listening to a
This
commercial?
is, we just want to make sure McDonald's gives us our.
This is horrendous. You can,
This is
you can mute it.
sponsorship dollars.
You can mute
Actually,
it, and we're not getting
actually,
shit from
actually,
McDonald's.
Thank you, McDonald's, for that ad. I'm gonna play this video. No, the globalists are coming.
But no one else can see it,
No,
including
I'm gonna
us.
share the screen.
Oh,
Just give me a second.
You don't know how to work the Google machine.
I don't know how to do
He
shit.
knows how to work the Google machine.
I don't know how to do shit on
The
this.
globalists are coming.
Wait,
Well, Alex Jones is going to talk about this here.
Give me a
Who
second.
is?
Alex
The
Jones.
globalists.
does
The
that
House
mean
of
that
Davos.
Where's the stupid share screen button?
it's not?
Oh yeah, there it is.
It's not. It's the party of Davos. First of
Whatever.
all, and the House of
do that
Davos is a
one.
Game of Thrones thing.
Okay.
All right.
Whatever.
There's good old Eric.
Come on.
That tour with Eric was fun, dude.
Does that mean everyone else is going to be able to see that, or just
Yeah,
us?
everyone else is gonna see it. I'm sure they
Alright.
probably saw some code they didn't.
This is
weren't
pretty
supposed
funny
to or
if you have not seen this.
All right,
before.
ready? Here we go.
Eric Andre, I'm here at the Republican National Convention.
2016.
Are you anti-abortion? Because I'm Uncle Abortion. How about I knock you up and we get rid of the dang thing? I'm looking for the transgendered bathtubs in here. I got to do a number 2. Do you have any idea where those are at? Yeah, I'm ready for the Rascal Flatts concert later.
Rascal Flatts.
Did you hear the new Rascal Flatts song?
Which one?
It goes, flat on my back, I'm a f***ing rascal. Tickle my tummy, I'm a little asshole.
Wait, did someone push him?
No, he
we're
falls
on
down
interview
a lot.
TV. We're interviewing people in the middle of interviews.
We're interview
That's what we're
TV.
talking about. We're on. No, that's what it's called. It's called you're in the middle of an interview TV. Black Lives Bladder.
That shows you this is an obvious outside globalist force. Of course they come here and say our veterans and our police are the enemy because they're the enemy. The globalists are the enemy.
Alex, I just want an interview with Alex. I just want an interview with Alex.
Hey, let's bring the Daily Show guy up here.
Why can't I?
Daily Show.
Wait, are people pushing him?
No, they're pushing him, but he's putting the sound effects.
I just want to sign up for the open
Oh
mic.
no, the Democrats are never violent like the Black Lives Matter events and attacking the Trump people.
I'm not a Democrat either. I'm a nihilist.
I know. But the Daily Show's not a Pentagon weapon.
I'm not on the Daily Show. I'm on MySpace.
Okay, well that's good. But listen, I mean, you seem like you're upset.
I want you to have sex with my wife.
It's trying to be shocking.
No, not at all. Here's my hotel key. I want you to have sex with my wife. Why does my pee-pee come out yellow? But when
Now I know what's going on.
I'm on your side. I'm on your show. I'm trying to get Zootopia tickets.
You scumbag piece of shit. Get the out of here.
I'm trying to get on stage. I'm trying to get on stage. I'm trying to get on stage.
You're not Martin Luther King. You're not. You're not.
Coachella sucks this year.
This is really good.
Okay. All right.
That was really good. That's how you.
I get behind that.
No, that's how
Yeah.
those are epic trolls.
Yeah,
Right.
that's. I mean, how do you troll Alex Jones? That's how you do it.
Well,
It's really good.
God, he is good.
Where you have to get more embarrassing than Alex Jones is,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's what you have to
But the
do.
point is, though, like even with Alex, he's obviously insane. He's out there saying insane shit. Like the guy's nuts. Like, and what's funny is I fact checked some of the stuff he said on Rogan. It's actually true. Like the pig human experiments that kind of freaked me out.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that those are mischaracterized.
No, they're called chimeras. They're like experiments.
What are chimeras?
They're experiments like fuse human and pig
Th-
DNA.
this
It's
is-
fucking
this is-
crazy.
A weird.
But-
Did you read Dr. Moreau?
Yes.
Right.
Mm.
The
Animal
the
hybrids.
island of Dr. Moreau.
Yes.
He's
right.
like it's like the South Park scientist.
Okay.
The guy that's always doing those crazy
you
experiments.
could potentially like fuse on a rat ear to somebody.
Man,
you
boy,
could
pig.
graft things like
Man,
that.
boy,
That is
pig.
not a chimera.
Dude, look it up, man. I'm not making this shit up. I read it on
You cannot mix.
National.
You could not put a
what is
rat
it,
sperm with a human egg and get a viable.
What's the big
you could not-
magazine?
it would not work.
Discovery.
Vogue.
Doesn't work that
No,
way.
Discovery. Jake's looking it up right now. Jake, please
Right,
look
the-
this
the
up.
amount of
our fact checker.
chromosomes
Please look up
don't line up.
chimera experiments.
Please,
No, no, no.
It's
please
actually
put
like-
in
I mean, think about
rat semen and
If you are missing one
female
of your
eggs.
chromosomes, like you die. The only person that lives is a Turner syndrome. If you're missing one of your X's and you have an X and a nothing,
Jake, can
then
we
you
pull that
are
up?
viable. But if you're missing any one of the autosomes, you die.
All right, I'm gonna pull it up. just
Like
so
you can't chimera things. Like it's just stupid.
Pig,
Like you have
human.
like if you know
I'm not
biology,
saying,
and
dude.
you
I'm
know
not
how physiology.
saying.
You know that
I'm not saying
genetic
that.
chimera does not
Okay,
work.
first of all,
across
I'm not saying the
species.
science is gonna work. All I'm saying is they're doing experiments. That's
especially across.
Anyway,
National
the point-
Geographic.
the point is that podcast was a shit show, but it was hilarious.
Right.
That was hilarious.
But the-
Anyways,
But no, you know Alex Jones is telling the truth because
All
one
right,
thing
all
he
right.
was telling you the truth about was somebody trolled him. He goes,
well,
the anti-abortion laws, you
Can't
know,
get this
the
stupid
new
thing.
abortion laws in Virginia, New York are a myth. And he started going, no, they're not.
all right.
They're trying to kill babies. Like the one time it was actually true, he started just getting animated and berserk. So like Alex Jones is telling the truth when he just starts to flip out.
Okay.
So if he's
all
just
I'm
like,
gonna
hey,
say,
hey, the aliens, they got
all-
things on Mars.
all I'm gonna say is this, Brian.
We've been to Mars before.
This is
Don't trust anyone.
January 2017. National
You do
Geographic.
not need to read the
National
rat semen
Geographic.
article.
National Geographic. Likely controversial feat. Scientists announced today they have created the first successful human-animal hybrids.
Mhm.
The project proves that human cells can be introduced into non-human organisms, survive, and even grow inside the host
That is
animal.
different than a genetic chimera, though.
I still think it's fucked up. How is it different?
Because you're not mixing the DNA, you were mixing cells.
Okay, fine. Then what was I saying that was
No,
different?
but this is different. Like because DNA does not make. You
How do
cannot
I-
take
how
a
do
rat
I-
sperm and put it into a human female
That's-
egg
I don't
and get
that's
anything
not
viable.
Brian-
That's
Brian-
not how science works.
Brian
They
is
don't just
right.
put sperm
It's
into
just boring.
things. Is it
That's-
boring?
Yes.
Human pigs are
but
boring.
Brian is right. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
All
you,
they need is
you could
organs.
graft a rat ear onto my elbow. That is possible. Yes.
Interesting.
And you might be able to get it to where it's not
But
rejected and it
anyways-
grows like a rat ear.
Anyways,
But that is not a
with-
chimera.
with
That's a fucking rat
Jones-
ear on my elbow.
the experiment freaked me out. With Jones, anyways, the best way to handle him is to ignore him. What's the problem if he's on YouTube saying crazy shit? Like people laugh at it and move on. Right?
Exactly.
Right?
But there's
And
going to be
usually-
there's
it'd be
gonna
the
be
other way
a-
around. They're
there's
probably
gonna be a
putting, like, a human
subset of
ear in a
people-
rat's ass.
there is going to be a subset of people like you who would potentially believe some crazy shit.
First of all, I looked it up, and What I'm saying here is there are there's experiments going on. Let me tell you a story.
Because
Can I
National
tell you a story?
Geographic is the
I
number
love
one.
This is
Right. Was this published in Science or Nature?
This is a real story. Are you ready? I'm going to blow your mind. You guys, scientists aren't fucked up.
Waiting
right?
to be blown.
So in the 60s, there was this dolphin boom, right? Everyone loved the dolphins. Everyone thought the dolphins were amazing. It was like this
It's
big,
a dolphin craze, not a boom.
Yeah, it's a dolphin craze, dolphin
boom
whatever you wanna
suggests
call it.
population boom.
Yeah,
That's
whatever you call it.
correct.
60s,
I was
70s.
I was like, oh, where are they?
The 60s and 70s, right? So there's these scientists that propose.
You know
that-
why?
Okay,
Because
go ahead.
that
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
that
Yeah, go ahead.
was the flower revolution,
Right.
the sex revolution.
Right.
You know what else they were
Right,
doing?
okay.
Pot and
Yeah,
LSD.
okay.
You know what's the most
Yeah.
popular animal when you're
Yeah,
high?
yeah.
Dolphins.
Okay.
That's right. Interdimensional.
Oh yeah, the interdimensional. Oh god.
vampire child monsters. That's right.
The
Interdimensional
interdimensional aliens things was ridiculous. But my story ties
beings.
to
I wanted him to define the dimension.
Tell me.
My story ties to LSD. It ties exactly in
Of course,
LSD.
dolphins. Go.
So these scientists, they have this thing. Oh, we're gonna figure out how to, because they figured out they're social animals in the 60s. They figured out how intelligent they were.
Right.
Oh, they
And they're
also have
like-
sex for fun.
They do.
Fun
Yeah,
fact.
yeah, exactly.
They're the only other
They can
animal.
kill themselves too.
Crazy.
So they're highly intellectual. So we realize this. Scientists realize, okay, maybe we can start talking to them. Let's crack the code on how to talk to
Dolphin.
dolphins, right? So these two scientists were hired. Carl Sagan was a part of the project. NASA gets really interested in the project. They invest a bunch of money into this project. And what happens is over time, this new organization's formed, and the whole experiment is how do we figure out how to talk to dolphins, right? So a bunch of crazy shit starts happening. So there's a female researcher that was in charge of the male dolphin. You kind of already see where that's going.
No,
weirdly.
I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, you
So
know it.
There's a female.
She's getting some dolphin dick.
There's a female.
Come
there's
on. What
a
does this turn into
female-
Nambla?
There's a female researcher in
Christ.
charge of the male dolphin, and then the two other female dolphins were the male guy with the male scientist was in charge of, right? So now you have this female scientist. She like lives and breathes this dolphin, trying to figure out how it talks.
Oh,
blah blah blah.
She breathes it.
She
all right.
realizes the male dolphin needs to have sex because he's he's
This
male.
is ridiculous. I don't.
Does she-
believe-
is she-
I'm very
Is
skeptical.
she jacking it?
You can look this.
I've heard about
science.
this
You
story.
can- you
She
can
she jacks
look
it.
Yeah. So hold on. So she's in charge of the male dolphin. So he constantly gets an erection and like impedes his willingness to learn. So she figures this out. So what they start doing is they create this like almost Uber delivery of taking this dolphin out of one pool, putting it in another pool so it can bang the chick dolphins, right? Just so he can
Okay,
you know, do
that
whatever he's gotta
this
do.
seems more normal.
yeah, right. It's very normal.
Dude,
But it was a
She was
hassle.
also jacking it off.
It's a
don't
very
think so.
it was a hassle to move the male dolphin from the one pool to the other pool. It was very long. It took a long time to do.
Those things are heavy.
So yes, they're very heavy. So the female scientist said, well, okay, you know, he needs to get off. So she started manually. She figured out a way to get him to ejaculate.
She was jacking it.
Well, no, they
She
probably
was-
made like a
she-
fake dolphin.
No, they didn't make a fake. This is the 60s. She
That's how
she
they've been
manually-
artificially inseminated
No,
horses
well,
that way
whatever.
for ages too.
Okay,
You
whatever.
build a fake horse and you have the
Whatever.
stallion mount it.
Okay, so yeah, just because she has a weird glove on, she's still doing the same fucking thing of jerking this thing off, right? So this makes it into Hustler, right? Hustler magazine exposes this whole thing. It's crazy.
Because
And-
Hustler is like the
Yeah, well, it was whatever.
their journalism.
Anyways, yeah, well, funnily enough, they hit on something that was true. So then the male doctor starts experimenting with LSD, right? So the male scientist, he's like with these people that LSD's all the rage and it expands your mind. It's kind of like what Alex Jones, this crazy ass, was talking about, talking to like interdimensional aliens. Like they all think
Vampires.
crazy shit because of
yeah,
LSD.
right.
And
So
he starts
his
fucking
idea-
the dolphin.
So his idea is to start injecting the dolphins with LSD, right? Because he thinks it'll expand their mind, it'll give them more potential to communicate with us, right?
This is the longest story of all
Yeah,
time.
I'm just telling you, you
Yeah.
guys don't think weird shit happens in science. So, so they inject these dolphins with LSD, and you know the dolphins are going a little nuts. After the Hustler thing that was found out, like with her jerking off the dolphins, NASA caught wind of it. NASA's like, holy shit, this experiment sounds insane.
We can jerk.
And then like Carl Sagan shows back up. He's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like this whole experiment's fucked. Like what's wrong with you guys?
Carl Sagan laced down
Carl
the law.
Sagan, like his major point was, look, the whole goal of this was not to get them to speak English because they don't have vocal cords. He was like, it was for us to crack the code of their language, you know?
Right.
And so like they had the fucking experiment all screwed up.
Oh, did somebody put pot in the brownies that I ate? Because
Anyways, so
can't
the
believe this is
NASA
happening.
pulls the funding, the project gets shut down, right? The 3 dolphins get moved to a different like a different pool, a different lab. And the male
Now-
dolphin,
Is used to getting jacked.
Okay.
the male dolphin, the theory is that the male dolphin was so in love with the lady scientist that he ended up actually committing suicide, kill himself.
Okay.
And you know, like the lady scientist was all sad about it and stuff. But the point I'm making here is
Half hour later.
science does some fucking crazy shit sometimes. So
Well,
when
there
I
could be
see
unethical science,
when I
again,
see
I'd have to
pig
look into this. I
humans-
don't.
I feel like
vouch
the
for this
point
story
could have been
at
way
all.
better. Like
Sorry.
if you get used
Well, I'm
to
just
getting
saying- I do not
jacked
vouch for
off,
this.
Did
you
guys-
may
did
kill
you guys,
yourself.
Did you guys know the story about that with NASA and
I did.
I'd have to
I
look
did.
this up.
Okay.
This
look it up?
this strikes me on the face like the Jussie Smollett story. My
Look it
instant is skepticism.
Look it up. It's
Well, I
fucking
didn't want to
bizarre.
look it up.
It's bizarre.
on-
Anyways, it was really started with
Dude,
Alex
Smollett's
Jones.
a national victim here.
Alex Jones is the way to handle him is just ignore him.
to a woman's heart is
He is to the way to your heart.
yes.
And Jesse Smollett came up in that interview too. Did you see that?
Oh my God.
That was good.
Oh.
I missed that
all the
part.
time.
Well, I know we have so many people listening.
I know.
I think right now, you know, we
Jesse
will
Smollett.
be talking about an event soon.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
Listen,
very, very
every
soon.
time I've tried to do a spoiler,
Well, we were doing
you-
hilarious titles.
You,
we
you,
were
you
thinking
had,
about like
you
the
had your panties in a knot about the fact that
Well,
I can't say anything.
this
blah,
one's
blah.
really close. This one's very close. A couple more steps and it's happening.
and we
So
were
It's in
talking
the bag.
about
it's in the
panel
bag.
titles that were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But
Look
we're
at-
thinking
That was
late
yesterday.
summer. Late summer.
Oh,
we definitely
God.
have something cooking up. We've had a heck of a time in the organizing meetings,
Panel.
coming up with some very good panel ideas.
You know
that
what
we're
we
going to
should
pitch to
do?
those speakers. We can't announce it yet.
You know
but
what we
there's
Speaking
something
of,
good coming.
I was just saying,
we
you
could
know-
have a panel on jerking dolphins.
Oh my god!
That's for sure.
You know what, man?
not if
Cow
it's-
from
Is-
Chicago had
is
this
it ethical?
Dolphin Love Association thing. Like this is. I never believed it at the time. Like,
What?
This sounds
No.
conspiracy.
She wasn't like physically in love with him. She just had to do it for scientific purposes because it saved time.
Oh.
She wasn't like, you know, banging the dolphin.
But you said the dolphin was in love with her, so it was
Well, that's
unrequited.
the theory is the dolphin missed her or whatever.
Unrequited.
Well, why did the dolphin kill itself?
Because it moved from one tank to another tank.
Okay.
He really
Oceans
loved his
over
tank.
Madison County.
He loved his tank for certain reasons, right? So the theory is that he killed himself because of that. Obviously, you can never prove that, but
Right.
he killed himself nonetheless.
Oh my
That's
God.
pretty. I think that's interesting.
Fred, this is about as provable as
So,
interdimensional
We
beings.
may or may not be doing
Happen.
an event in the summer, late summer,
Yeah,
Probably.
that may or may not involve a lot of people
might know as early as next week.
who
actually.
are fun.
No, oh yeah. What I was thinking is, you know, one thing we can do
Who
if we
are-
ever grow a Patreon or anything, you know, what would be a really.
I
good-
heard Subscribe Star is the new
Or whatever.
Sneeze.
Oh yeah, Brian,
Everyone, go to
Did
Subscribe
you
Star.
call Subscribe Star yet?
No, we haven't called subscribe.
All
Sorry.
right.
Why?
So-
What are we banned?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I think they would.
We think
like what
they're
we're doing.
they're a Brazilian Russian company, but
Yeah.
they're. I want to know where they got their merchant.
They'd be a
account.
cool
That's what I
sponsor.
need to know.
sponsor
Yeah.
to an event. Anyways,
Whatever.
what was I
Point
saying?
is, go join our subscribe.
what I was saying is-
whoever
no, no,
they
no.
are,
What I was saying
They
is,
are
the point I was
very
making. You
resourceful.
know, it'd be really funny if we made
help fund our next event.
if we did the panel meeting, like the panel discussion meeting that we have with like patrons.
and you could see
that's
how
so
insanely
insane.
crazy it gets in
It's
those meetings,
absolutely
bitching
insane.
about
Jake
what
knows.
panels
Like
ought
I
to
think
be.
we all left, so we all left.
They would all
my-
quit, right?
They all left my bill, and
It-
Jake said he won't be there.
It's a battle royale. It's a Royal Rumble.
because you're
It's
a
a Royal
bag of
Rumble.
dicks and you refuse to listen to reason.
That's not true.
That's 100%
It is fun. It
true.
is. It
You're
is a
gonna
lot of
blame
fun
it all
bitching
on
about
me.
it.
That's victim culture.
No, that
You're the
would be if
victim.
you're claiming you're a victim. I'm claiming you're a douche. So if
And
anything, it's
you think I'm the only
Lord
one
of
that's
the
douche
lady.
in
naming
those
culture.
Douchebag.
conversations? I think they're hilarious. We left so mad at each other. What was it? Earlier this week?
Tuesday.
Earlier this week, Tuesday?
Monday. Sorry.
That was hilarious. And we're like yelling in my lobby, like just screaming at one another. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I'm surprised you're not
thanks,
evicted
guys.
yet.
Yeah, thanks guys for yelling.
Scared all the local Dolphins away.
They scared all of the
All of them.
people at the building that were getting coffee.
Right. Even the Miami fans. They were like freaking out.
Yeah. I think it would be funny to air those though.
That was
We
funny.
get so
That was
mad
not
at each
funny.
other.
It was a little
That
funny.
was not funny.
It's much funny.
Erica knows how mad we get at
It
each other.
wasn't.
And then we just, come back and get it done.
But
That's what
next
we do.
week, definitely we're going to do the barbecue Becky crosswalk Kathy golf
don't know
cart
any
Gale,
of
and
the
this kind of
words
thing.
he's
These
saying.
are the social culture. Like there is a culture gap between black and white, if you
Mm.
will, and we have to be able to talk about this in a reasonable way.
Okay.
And we have a reasonable person on the left that's going to talk about it. And I think we can. There's something to be learned from both sides.
Final thoughts, Dima, on that interview.
Final thought: you spelled porpoise wrong. I don't know how to spell it, but it's not
Porpoise.
that way.
I didn't spell. Where did I
No,
spell porpoise?
That's right.
Oh,
Someone in the chat.
gotcha.
Um,
Final thoughts on the interview.
this one.
You should definitely watch Joe Rogan. He's talking about the Joe Rogan Vijaya or
It's
and it's
We
Twitter.
already screwed it up.
It's basically Rogan, Twitter execs, and Tim Pool.
Yeah,
Very, very
So
good.
final thoughts, Dima. I know you haven't seen all of it yet. What do you think? What do you think is going
I
to come
saw.
after
I
it?
saw the majority of it, and
What do you think the fallout's going to be, if any,
I don't think there's going to be any fallout. I
or
think.
improvements?
I think.
I
That,
think that Tim Pool is going to get a lot of boost. It's going to get a lot of boost. Well, I'll answer if you're not going to answer.
What do you think?
It's
I
gonna-
was
Tim
going.
Pool's going to get a lot of
I was
boost. for
literally
being a top
reaching.
journalist.
Weren't fast enough, bitch.
Dima, you weren't. I
Right.
asked Dima. Wait, what are your? Because Dima hates everything and doesn't like anything.
That's not.
I'll
So
let you
it's
answer.
always.
What am I, a
you know,
nihilist?
like- oh, you're totally a nihilist. You're totally a nihilist. Anyways, go ahead.
I like to hate whatever you like. That is
Well, okay,
true.
maybe that's what I'm noticing. That is true.
But I'm not doing it on purpose. I just think you have some dumb opinions. It's more so.
Thanks. That's fine. I don't care.
It's more so that no, I thought it was a really good interview and it was well balanced. And
Yeah.
the point that I was making at the beginning was, you think I have this tendency to like shit on our guests and like the people who are in our network?
You always have a tendency of shitting on everyone.
No,
that you know.
what I like to do is give I'm a big fan of constructive criticism, and
Yeah,
I
but
thought,
With
and
constructive criticism comes positive criticism. That's
and
the
and I
step you
and I
always
did
miss.
and I did say that Tim did a good job, but that of everything that I've seen of his content
Mm.
ever, this was the most aggressive I've ever seen him.
Mm.
Whether
But aggressive doesn't mean bad.
and it may not mean bad, but
Yeah.
it was atypical. Like I was a few times I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, Tim, because I'm not used to seeing that side of him.
Well,
So,
yeah.
and I'm not saying he did anything wrong because
Well, I think
because they
too-
hold on, they
yeah.
deserved to be put on the hot seat, and I think he did an amazing job
Yeah.
of that because
Don't-
they
but-
are ivory
don't-
tower asshats.
But don't you see the fallout that Joe's mentioned many times? And Joe doesn't get affected by most of this stuff. He doesn't really watch Twitter.
I
He doesn't watch his
understand.
shit.
Of course, he got
But
backlash
he got a
for
ton of backlash
good
for
because
the first interview. Don't you think Tim smartly paid attention to what that outrage was and came
Well,
with,
he knew
It
the
felt
specific situations
Yeah.
very, very
which
well.
is exactly
And
what
Joe
I
trusted
would've
him
done.
to do that because when you look at Joe Rogan and Tim Pool's interview
Mhm.
about a month ago or whatever,
Yeah.
it was obvious he was an expert.
Yeah.
So
if you
was very good.
if you didn't know anything about Tim Pool and you came into that interview cold, you would come away thinking
he was tough.
that he's tough and potentially, and this I know this is false, and potentially that he's somehow trying to cash in on conservative outrage.
Mm.
No,
Now,
not
we- now-
cash in, just
So cash in.
Because if you're if
Cash
if
in?
if you're someone who is never
you would
cashing
have
in
to
on him?
understand the culture war.
Was
And if
he
you
selling
understand the
something?
culture war, you know who Tim Pool
That's
is.
And he
my
even said
point.
he
It
was
was a ridiculous
liberal.
hypothetical.
That's my point, that he's not trying to
But
sell
he said
something.
he was a liberal too, so why would he?
And
cash-
he's
cash
I
in
know
on-
he's what Jesus Christ, you didn't listen to anything I said.
Well,
I
that's
said
a very strong statement.
I said this isn't true. But if you came into it blind with no information, you just saw a guy whose name was Tim Pool and whatever political,
I disagree.
you were like, oh shit, he's really going ham on a particular topic that's going to ingratiate him with conservatives.
I think the fair
Maybe.
criticism there is not if someone came in and didn't know any of those people, and Eric would be a good one to get her like.
Then I think that people
perception.
would say that the best person in that podcast would have been Jack Dorsey. 100%.
I disagree. I think Joe Rogan was much better. But anyway,
Joe Rogan hardly said anything.
Joe Rogan said a lot, and the stuff he said was really good. But what I think if you're someone that doesn't know anyone on that panel, I think you come in and you see Tim Pool, who is an independent journalist that has pressing questions that maybe some of the context wasn't always there as far as setting it up, but Joe did a really good job of backing it up and saying, this is the context, this is what was happening. And I think you see an uncomfortable corporate exec who had some coaching, maybe not a lot, not necessarily ready on all of it. And I think you see a very diplomatic CEO who's used to being in these situations that has a certain way of responding to questions.
There is no better way
and
that
you
you
have
would have responded
a
to
Tim
those.
Pool that's both informed
and hungry
and tough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
All those things are true.
Yeah.
100%. I didn't say that he performed poorly. I said, based on what I've seen in the past, it was an outlier of how aggressive he was. Whether it's good, bad, whatever, maybe he'll go back and look at it and go, you know what, I would have done things different. I don't know.
Yeah.
But aggressive isn't always bad.
And
right?
I didn't say
Aggressive isn't
I
always bad.
I didn't say it was bad.
Vidya again, right? Vidya. And Vidya, you can tell she was younger.
I mean,
Tim's
but think
obviously
about it.
younger.
When
I
you
don't
go
think that
for it
she's
on
ever
fourth
been-
down,
I think
It's
this was her
aggressive.
first. I think this was her
He did
first.
great.
I don't think that she's ever been challenged like
this
that
was her
before.
first big
and
spotlight
for-
thing,
she
and-
did pretty well.
And it's good that she didn't
Yeah.
crack and go, you're fascist.
which is great.
yeah,
But
because she
you
could have.
can't.
She could have.
No, you
could've.
can.
She
You
could
can.
have.
He threw a
She
lot of
could've.
shit at her.
She could
and
have.
at some
could've
point,
walked
She
out.
could have, and she would have lost her job. That's
Probably.
the other thing. You have your CEO
No,
sitting right
smart
there.
as fuck.
Yeah,
Smart as
you
fuck.
can't lash. I
She
mean,
did
I don't
well.
know if you guys saw the R. Kelly thing. That was
No.
fucking insane.
She did well. They're more
Um,
honest than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I think that
That's
the
true.
problem
I give
is
them that.
the biggest problem is they're in a bubble. I don't think that they're dishonest because or two things could be true at once, but I do think they're honest, but they need a diversity of viewpoints.
Yeah.
They need Tim Pool, they need Joe Rogan because they don't have them working for them.
Yeah.
But going around and the fact that he was on Sean Hannity, come on,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a friendly environment. I do think you don't do that.
They're willing
if
to
you're
talk.
dishonest. There's just why
They're
So
willing to talk.
the end result is I think it was a great discussion.
I think it's
And
good.
in terms of aftermath, I'm hoping that, the millions of people that end up watching that, Twitter follows through and does put in some development and they realize
That's some of the things
and I think the biggest thing, and we didn't even mention this on the podcast, is Tim mentioned a really good point, is that if you keep going down this road, you may get what's it called? You may get regulated.
Oh yeah.
And they do
Right.
not
And that's-
fucking want that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
That's what
so
I'm
if they truly are
Yeah.
doing something
Mhm.
in order to level the playing field, automate this process,
yeah.
make it so that learn to code stuff like they made the horrendous mistakes with that
Yeah.
do not keep being made. Maybe they are gonna
The
roll
FCC
some shit
steps
out.
in, yeah. Yeah.
or the legislature steps in.
So
That's what I
well,
think.
so I think it's a
yeah.
it's a
They
positive.
they still have to operate under government rule, government law.
Sure.
Well, all
There's just
applicable laws, but
certain-
you could make
There's
It's-
certain FCC
it's
rules.
the
Social
best-
Media Act 123 of
There's certain
2019.
There's certain FCC rules they get around because they're an internet
Th-
platform.
that is the best possible I can't think of anyone on earth I would have wanted to grill Jack Dorsey
yeah,
more than Tim Pool.
yeah.
So I, as a
Excellent
viewer,
I think it did great.
got exactly what I wanted. And in fact, when Joe was talking about for weeks that I'm gonna have Jack back,
yeah,
I was
it was
thinking,
such a shock.
I was thinking,
I know that Tim
it would
was
be
there.
so amazing if I was
Oh.
thinking the most amazing thing that could happen if Tim was in the room.
And that's what I thought too.
And so as soon as I saw that was,
it was like
that's
back to
who
back
it
to
was,
back,
I know.
too, yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
I wanted Joe to be like, say hello to my little
And
friend.
give it up to Joe. I mean, for making that happen. Jesus Christ,
But
Joe.
that's why he's part of the zeitgeist.
He's
He's
becoming,
a
like,
cultural mover and
he's the
shaker.
tastemaker.
And if you need to, and think about how he's influencing
He's
politics.
unbelievable.
The ass clowns on the left who should never win anything, ever. By which I mean the Kamala Harrises and the
okay.
Cory Bookers and all
I was
those.
just say because you love
and all
Yang.
all those fucking hacks. They haven't been on Joe Rogan, but you know who has?
Yeah.
The two best candidates in the race.
In your opinion.
But it's hilarious. Kamala Harris and Cory Booker are mainstream Democratic candidates. You're just calling them assholes.
They're fucking assets.
Andrew Yang.
But Yang 2020, what up? And Tulsi Gabbard have been on Joe Rogan, and they happen to be the best candidates in the race. So,
do you think Bernie Sanders goes on?
No, I think that Joe would have him on, but I just don't think. I think he's not. He had this grassroots, interesting campaign in 2016, and I was a huge fan.
Bernie is not going to convert,
but I think
Bernie wins by rallying the base.
He's become
no point.
He's become way too mainstream. Like,
no, but this is what's become interesting though, and. I think there's this taboo of looking at Joe Rogan and Tim Pool and like YouTube creators and stuff. Joe Rogan actually is mainstream. Just bring him up randomly to people you
Yes, he is. He is mainstream.
You're getting people
but that's the amazing thing.
You're getting people our age or older,
I know, but not everyone, because
and
people.
Ben Shapiro's another one that's
I agree.
Huge name,
but that's the amazing thing is you'll have people that are having in-depth, detailed conversations, and people are actually listening, and that's incredibly different.
I mean,
and hopefully he is the harbinger of death for Fox, CNN, Fox, and all these other hack goddamn networks.
Well, maybe not a harbinger of death. Jesus Christ, maybe how about a reform?
Well, though they could, but these people could adopt the new
death
model.
knell.
Fox could shift their model.
Yeah, reform.
All of them could shift their model, but they're not.
But what Joe is doing is he's adding an example into the zeitgeist, into the industry,
which is unbelievable.
That will influence
and I
other
hope that
outlets to go the same way. So I mean, that's how all of these things work. Everyone copies off of everyone on everything. So,
but look at how many years he's been doing this. Who's copied him? The only thing I can possibly think of.
See it.
The only thing I can think of is Ben Shapiro has started doing a Sunday hour conversation.
Ben Shapiro does a long form podcast.
Yeah, let's talk about the real Joe Rogan effect. Jordan Peterson goes on Joe Rogan. All of a sudden he shoots up. Ben Shapiro, he shoots up.
Dude, Ben Shapiro's been big before.
There's a very
big boost.
I don't disagree.
I'll show you the trend line. As soon, Ben was doing well. I'm not saying he wasn't doing well, but as soon as he went on Rogan, it you could see it. You could see the dates of like the interest level. So Joe he's creating opportunities. For
what I like is he's having conversations.
Their own
like a lot of people haven't seen. He did this debate between someone who promotes a strictly plant-based diet versus someone who is
the carnivore diet,
not even a carnivore diet, who's pro omnivore. So like you can eat everything in moderation, blah blah blah. It was a fascinating conversation. I got a lot out of it. The debate that he had on marijuana a couple of weeks ago was again brilliant.
I've been eating Dolphin only.
Good. Well, you should. High in mercury though. So the point is that he's having these discussions, which are great because you're never gonna hear about them anywhere else.
They're protected class anyways.
Are they trans?
Fine, then I'll eat porpoise.
Dolphins and whales are protected because of their intelligence.
Miles Kinslow is asking if we think that Trump will ever do a live stream with a YouTuber.
I think if he does if he does anyone, it's Rogan. If he does anyone,
was he live with Alex Jones or he went on his show?
You're right. He did.
He went
on Alex Jones.
He went on InfoWars.
Yeah, and early.
I don't know if that was a live stream, and I guess he's a YouTuber.
And he's called in.
Yeah, but if I'm gonna like read into Miles' question, I mean, YouTuber Alex Jones, I wouldn't consider. Like, I consider him to be a little more mainstream talk show.
Yeah.
Sargon got
banned. David Hume's tortured liver. Like Rogan's the show you go on to when you try to prove you're not an empty suit. Love the name, by the way.
Bannon's been doing smaller things too. He's doing a grassroots
I'm
thing.
just saying, like, there will be a time I think Trump will do it. I don't know if he's going to do it,
But it
now
has to be
because it's insane.
someone big
But
enough. Trump would
Trump-
have to go on a very big
Trump-
podcast.
Trump went on Saturday
YouTube
Night
channel.
Live.
We're talking about YouTubers.
I'm just saying.
So
Yeah, the question
is
is
a
YouTubers.
is
I
a
get-
Joe
I get it.
Rogan would probably be one, but like
I
there
think he
might
would
be
do
others.
Joe.
What about has he
Ben
been?
Shapiro.
Actually, no,
That-
no, he wouldn't do it
Yes.
because
Well,
actually he's gonna
no.
get
Well,
grilled by them.
Ben
You know
doesn't
who
like
would Trump would
Shapiro's-
go on? What about like Diamond and Silk? He follows them on Twitter. They're one of 43 people he follows on Twitter. I would think that it would be one of his
Yeah.
people that he follows on Twitter. Diamond and Silk, I think, is the one he would go on.
You think that one?
Yep.
And who knows? Maybe he's already gone on one. I don't know. We don't know. Do we know?
he would do an interview with. I guarantee he already kind of has is Candace.
Candace Owens.
If she had
You know?
if she had a thing, he'd do
Yeah.
or if she had a YouTube channel that regularly, he'd do an interview with her.
Well, he likes Candace.
Oh, who's the black dude who do you love black people? Who's that guy?
Jesse Lee Peterson.
Yeah. Yes.
Jesse Lee Peterson.
Do you love black people? Do you love black? I love that.
But more
Brian
He
so
was
would,
that
he would go on
quoting that.
Jesse
he
Lee
follows
Peterson.
Why don't we get
43
Jesse
people
Lee
on
Peters
Twitter.
on the show?
Huh?
We should get Jesse Lee Peters.
Yeah,
on
we
the
should.
Jesse.
We've been lazy. in
He'd be
booking
funny to
lately.
talk to.
We're not
That's
good
true.
bookers lately.
Well, we're planning this event.
Yeah, I
which
know.
do you
That's
love
the
black
issue.
people? Like,
Dude, do
you guys haven't seen
do you love
Destiny?
black people?
the opening of that show with
Do
Jim
you
Bradley
love black people?
is one of the funniest 30 seconds of comedy.
No.
It's the best meme ever.
I think it was. Yeah. No, I think he would do Rogan. I think Rogan would be fair.
Oh my god.
And then some of the ones that you mentioned too, Brian. Oh,
Yeah.
was it got another one?
No,
I can't see the
no,
chat.
no. It's SBG interviewing Trump, which would be boring.
Who's SBG?
Oh, some black guy.
Oh, some black.
Derek?
Yeah, well, Derek's not a real interview format.
No, he's not.
It has
And
to
it
be
just wouldn't
somebody
be-
that Trump follows,
Right.
right? And so
No,
that's why it's
Derek. I hope Rogan follows suit and gets Derek on the show.
He's
'cause
been on his show before, I
No, he
think.
hasn't. He's
pretty
he's
sure
been
he has.
promised. I was.
Oh,
Working,
maybe
I
not.
was working on the freaking deal.
Maybe that's a good point.
On what he's had a couple invitations. The one I don't know. Joe gets.
I think it has to be entertaining guests.
No, it's
People
not
who
that.
are-
No, Joe specifically told him he wants him on the show. It's just Joe. What I've noticed what happens with Joe
You should
lately.
get Josephine on the show instead.
I think what's happening
That'd
with
be
Joe lately, not in every case, but he has a booker. He has a guy that works independently, and then Joe also books his own show. And I think what Joe does a lot of times, as you kind of seen, he's been enjoying these series lately. Like it's like one thing that leads to another, it leads to another. So it was like Jack, then Tim, then
I get it.
you know,
he had stuff
this
on
one,
particular topics.
yeah, and then
Well-
he throws in the comedians here and there, and the people he's really cool with, and then obviously the MMA stuff. So
yeah,
Eddie Bravo. Well, Eddie
Well,
Bravo.
Sam Harris and Hannibal Buress was
well,
like MMA.
Yeah, Sam Harris has been on a lot, huh? Sam's been
Well,
on
Sam
a lot.
and Sam and Hannibal got into it on Rogan like that. They actually go right at each.
That
other.
wasn't on Rogan's show.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it
That
was.
No, it was.
Yeah, it was.
I believe Rogan was there. That wasn't Joe
okay,
Rogan's show.
okay.
That was like some international
Okay, but he
show.
was there.
Point
I
is,
assumed
one
it
of
was
our
there.
future events is going to have all these people there, so they'll get to chat with each other then.
Yeah, Hannibal got pissed.
Oh, he was
Harris.
pissed.
He was pissed.
Yeah,
Except for
I know.
Hannibal Buress,
Yeah.
he won't come to our.
Why not?
Comedians,
Hannibal's a
they
cool
don't
guy.
want to.
But anyways,
He is cool
we'll
guy.
get into some of what Hannibal. That's exactly we're going to delve right into the topic of Hannibal and Sam Harris.
That's an old
on the
one,
next
though.
podcast. No, it's still very relevant
Oh yeah, okay.
because they're talking about black policing.
Well, then find out
racial
exactly where the show
profiling.
was aired. Don't say the Joe Rogan show. 'Cause I'm
Fine,
like
he was on
almost
that.
100% sure it wasn't the Joe
Black
Rogan
Lives
show.
Matter.
Well, I listened
That's
to
Eric
it
Andre.
on audio,
That's
so I
true.
couldn't see.
There's
But
some
I
of the-
listened to the whole audio.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, good
So
show.
anyways,
Good show tonight, guys.
Should wrap it up. This is fun. The next week is going to be really good. It's
We're
fun talking
close.
to
And next
reasonable
week,
people on the
and
left
next week,
with
and-
whom we disagree.
and next week might be
About tough
when
issues.
we announce the event.
Yeah.
So
Stay in touch. Hey, thanks.
We'll be in costumes.
Thanks for the
that.
super chats. Thanks for the for
Brian.
tuning in. We
Brian,
really appreciate
costumes
it.
for when we announce the event.
Huh?
Costumes.
Well,
that's what we're gonna
blackface
wear.
is out.
Jesus
Well,
Christ, dude.
What if half? Oh no, I'll do this half my face, and you do
Jesus
that
Christ.
half of your
Okay.
face. No, that and then at
Jesus
some
Christ.
point we'll stand like this. Brilliant. We're
All
doing
right.
it.
I have no idea
Next
what he's
time.
talking about. All right.
All right.
Talk to you. Bye.